Look, I need you to be honest with yourself for a second. How many times this week have you stayed late at the office? How many emails have you answered after dinner? How many times have you said yes to extra projects, thinking this is how I get ahead? Here's the thing that's going to sound absolutely insane. Every extra hour you're putting in right now might be costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. I'm serious. The person at your company who leaves at 5 p.m. sharp, the one you maybe judge a little bit for not being a team player, yeah, there's a very real chance they're going to retire wealthier than you, and it's not even close. My name is Buffett, and I spend way too much time thinking about why smart, hard-working people end up broke. If you're someone who's grinding 50, 60, maybe 70 hours a week and still feeling like you're barely getting ahead financially, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out, because what I'm about to show you is going to fundamentally change how you think about work, money, and building wealth. So here's the paradox that makes absolutely no sense at first glance. According to a comprehensive study from the Bureau of Labor Statistics tracking workers over 20 years, employees who consistently worked 50-plus hours per week earned, on average, 23% less in total lifetime earnings compared to those who worked 35 to 40 hours per week in similar roles. 23% less. Let me put that in real numbers for you. If you're making $75,000 a year right now, and you're one of those people grinding it out with the long hours, you could be looking at roughly $400,000 to $600,000 less in lifetime earnings compared to your colleague who works normal hours. That's a house. That's your kid's college education. That's a comfortable retirement. Now you might be thinking, okay, Buffett, this is clearly nonsense. How could working more make you earn less? That doesn't make any mathematical sense. And you're right to be skeptical. On the surface, it seems completely backwards. But here's what most people don't realize. We're not just talking about the math of hourly wages here. We're talking about a systemic financial trap that most hardworking people fall into without even knowing it. Let's start with the thing that keeps most people grinding, the promise of the promotion. You're staying late because you think it's going to get you noticed. You think it's going to get you that raise, that promotion, that big breakthrough. And look, I'm not saying hard work doesn't matter, but here's the data that nobody talks about. A research study published in the Journal of Organizational Behavior followed 3,000 employees across various industries for a decade. They found that putting in more than 45 hours per week increased your chances of promotion by only 3.2%. 3.2%. You know what had a stronger correlation with getting promoted? Taking on high visibility projects, even if they took less total time. Networking with decision makers, strategic career moves like switching companies every 3 to 4 years. But here's where it gets really interesting. Even when the long hours did lead to a promotion, the salary increase was, on average, 8 to 12%. Sounds good, right? Let's do the math. You're making $75,000. You're working 50 hours a week instead of 40. That's 25% more hours. You get promoted after 2 years of this grind. You get a 10% raise. You're now making $82,500. But here's what you gave up. 2 years of your life at an extra 10 hours per week. That's over 1,000 hours of your life. If you had spent just 5 of those hours per week on a side business, learning a high-income skill, or even investing in yourself, the return would have been dramatically higher. A study from Harvard Business School found that professionals who spent 5 to 10 hours per week on strategic skill development or side income streams increased their total income by an average of 34% over 5 years. 34% versus 10%. Now, here's the thing that's really going to frustrate you. When you're working those insane hours, you're actually cementing yourself into an income ceiling. Think about it. You're exhausted. You come home, you're drained. You don't have the energy to learn new skills. You don't have the time to explore other opportunities. You definitely don't have the bandwidth to start that side business you've been thinking about. You become what I call financially immobile. And your employer knows this. There's actually a term for it in corporate HR circles. It's called golden handcuffs. But there's a lesser-known version that's even more insidious: exhaustion dependency. When you're too tired to job hunt, too burned out to interview, too mentally drained to negotiate, you lose all your leverage. And according to salary data from Glassdoor and PayScale, employees who stay at one company for more than 5 years without a job change earn, on average, 50% less over their career than those who make strategic moves every 3 to 4 years. 50%. That's not a typo. Job switchers, the people who have the time and energy to explore opportunities, are doubling the lifetime earnings of the loyal workers who grind it out. But wait, it gets worse. And this is the part that really makes me frustrated, because nobody talks about this. Working more than 50 hours per week has serious health consequences. A study published in The Lancet followed 600,000 workers and found that working long hours increased the risk of stroke by 33% and coronary heart disease by 13%. Now, you might think, okay, health is important, but what does that have to do with lifetime income? Everything. The average cost of a stroke in the United States, including medical bills, lost wages, and long-term care, is approximately $140,000 to $250,000. Heart disease? We're looking at $200,000 to over $1 million, depending on severity. But even if you avoid the catastrophic health events, chronic stress and burnout lead to decreased cognitive function, poor decision-making, and what researchers call financial decision fatigue. A study from Columbia University found that people experiencing chronic work stress made financial decisions that cost them an average of $3,200 per year in suboptimal choices. Over a 40-year career, that's $128,000 in completely preventable losses. This is where it gets really interesting. That same study found that these poor financial decisions included things like not contributing enough to 401ks to get the full employer match, carrying high-interest credit card debt because they didn't have time to organize their finances, missing investment opportunities because they were too burned out to educate themselves, and paying for convenience services that drained their income. Here's what most people don't realize about wealth building. It's not about working more hours. It's about leveraging your time. Let me give you a concrete example. Two people, same salary, $75,000 a year. Person A works 50 hours a week, exhausted, contributes 3% to their 401k because they haven't had time to figure out the optimal strategy. No side income, no time for strategic skill development. Person B works 40 hours a week, uses 5 of those saved hours to max out their 401k contributions and set up automated investing, uses another 5 hours to develop a high-income skill that generates an extra $1,000 a month in side income. After 30 years, assuming a 7% return, Person A has approximately $340,000 in retirement savings, while Person B has approximately $1.2 million in retirement savings, plus the compounding value of their side income stream. That's nearly $1 million difference from the same base salary. The only difference? How they used their time. Now, look, I can already hear some of you saying, but Buffett, I'm young. I'm supposed to hustle now and build my career capital. I'm supposed to pay my dues. And I get it, I really do. But here's the thing nobody tells you. There's a massive difference between strategic career building and just working a lot. Career capital isn't built by grinding 70 hours on busy work. It's built by developing rare and valuable skills, building a powerful professional network, creating visible results that demonstrate your value, and positioning yourself as an expert in your field. A study from Stanford tracking MBA graduates for 20 years found that graduates who strategically built their careers, focusing on skill development, networking, and high-impact projects, earned 3.7 times more over their careers than those who simply worked the longest hours. Let me say that again. 3.7 times more. Not by working harder, by working smarter. And if you're self-employed or running your own business,
business, this trap is even more dangerous. I see entrepreneurs all the time bragging about their 80-hour work weeks. They wear it like a badge of honor. I'm hustling, they say. I'm grinding. But here's the brutal truth. If you're working 80 hours a week in your business, you don't have a business. You have an expensive job that you're terrible at quitting. Data from the Small Business Administration shows that businesses where the owner works 60+ hours per week are 40% more likely to fail within the first 5 years, compared to businesses where the owner works 40 to 45 hours and focuses on systems, delegation, and strategic growth. Why? Because when you're in the weeds, you're not building a business, you're not developing systems, you're not thinking strategically. You're just busy, and busy doesn't build wealth. Leverage builds wealth. Now here's where we need to talk about the psychology, because this is really what keeps people trapped. There's something called the effort justification bias. Basically, the more effort we put into something, the more we convince ourselves it's valuable, even when the data says otherwise. You spent 2 years working 60-hour weeks. Your brain literally cannot accept that this was a waste, so you double down. You keep grinding. You tell yourself, just one more year, just one more promotion, then I'll ease up. But that year never comes. I've analyzed the financial histories of hundreds of high earners, and here's the pattern I see over and over. The people who grind the hardest in their 20s and 30s often end up with the least wealth in their 40s and 50s. Why? Because they burned out and had to take lower paying, less stressful jobs. They missed the optimal years for compound interest in their investments. They destroyed their health and faced massive medical expenses. They never developed skills or networks to create alternative income streams. They lost relationships that could have been sources of opportunity and support. So here's what actually builds wealth. And I need you to really hear this, because it goes against everything you've been taught. Wealth equals income multiplied by strategic time investment multiplied by compound growth minus lifestyle inflation plus opportunity cost. Notice what's not in that equation? Hours worked. Let me break this down with real numbers. Scenario 1 is the grinder. Base salary of $75,000, working 55 hours per week with zero strategic time investment because they're too tired. No side income, 401k contribution of just 3%, which is $2,250 per year. No skill development, low job mobility. After 30 years, they end up with a net worth of around $400,000. Scenario 2 is the strategist. Same base salary of $75,000, but working 40 hours per week. They invest 10 hours per week on skills and side income development. Their side income starts at $500 a month, but grows to $3,000 a month over time. They contribute 15% to their 401k, which is $11,250 per year. They focus on high-value skills that lead to job switches and raises. They have high job mobility. After 30 years, they end up with a net worth of approximately $2.1 million. That's a $1.7 million difference. Same starting salary. The only difference is how they allocated their time and energy. Okay, so here's what you actually need to do. And I'm going to give you the exact framework. First, calculate your real hourly rate. Take your annual salary and divide it by the actual hours you work per year, including overtime, emails after hours, weekend work, everything. If you're making $75,000 but working 55 hours a week, your real hourly rate isn't $36 an hour. It's about $26 an hour. You're basically working for $10 an hour less than you think you are. Second, protect your strategic time. Block out 5 to 10 hours per week that are non-negotiable. This time is for skill development that increases your market value, building side income streams, financial education and optimization, networking and relationship building, and physical health and mental recovery. This isn't optional. This is the difference between retiring comfortable and retiring broke. Third, maximize your per hour value, not your hours. Instead of working 50 hours at $30 an hour, figure out how to work 35 hours at $50 an hour.
hour. This means developing high-value, rare skills, positioning yourself for strategic promotions or job moves, building systems and leverage, and learning to negotiate effectively. According to salary research, learning to negotiate effectively is worth an average of $7,500 per negotiation. Most people negotiate their salary 10-15 times in their career. That's $75,000 to $112,500 in lifetime earnings from a skill that takes maybe 10 hours to learn properly. Fourth, build parallel income streams. Every hour you spend building a second income stream is worth potentially 10-20 times what you make at your day job over time. Why? Compound growth and scalability. A consulting side hustle that starts at $500 a month can grow to $5,000 a month with the same amount of work as you build systems and reputation. Your day job, that same performance might get you a 3% raise. Fifth, invest the difference. Here's the math that changes everything. If you cut back from 55 hours to 40 hours, you're not actually losing income if you reinvest that time properly. But even if you were, let's say you took a $5,000 pay cut to work reasonable hours. If you invest just 5 of those saved hours per week into skill development that increases your income by $10,000 within 2 years, you're ahead, significantly ahead, and the data backs this up. Research from McKinsey found that professionals who invested in continuous skill development earned 38% more over 10 years compared to those who didn't, regardless of hours worked.
Look, here's the bottom line, and I need you to really hear this. Your time is the only truly finite resource you have. You can always make more money. You can't make more time. Every hour you spend grinding on something that's not moving you strategically forward is an hour you've lost forever. Gone. You can't get it back. And the cruelest irony, the system is designed to make you feel like working those extra hours is the responsible thing to do. Your boss loves it. Your company loves it. They get more productivity from you without paying you proportionally more. But you know who doesn't love it? Future you. Future you, the one at 55, looking at retirement, realizing you've worked yourself to exhaustion for 30 years and have nothing to show for it except health problems and a mediocre 401k. That person is going to wish you watched this video and actually listened. I've seen it happen too many times. People who sacrificed everything for their careers, thinking they were building something, only to realize they built a cage. So here's what I want you to do right now. Seriously, right now, calculate your real hourly rate. Look at your actual hours worked versus your actual take-home pay. Then ask yourself, is this the best use of my most valuable resource? If the answer is no, and for most of you watching this, it will be no, then you need to make a change. Not next month, not next year, now. Because here's what I know. 5 years from now, you're going to wish you started today. The people who build real wealth, the people who retire comfortably, the people who have financial freedom, they're not the ones working the most hours. They're the ones working the right hours on the right things. And that can be you, but only if you stop grinding and start strategizing. If this video opened your eyes to how you've been thinking about work and money, smash that subscribe button. Drop a comment and let me know, how many hours are you really working per week? And more importantly, what are you going to change after watching this? Because the truth is, working harder isn't the answer. Working smarter is. And now you know exactly what that means. I'll see you in the next one.